drifting, 60 seconds of your life that you just can't compare to anything else. 60 seconds of just you in the deepest thoughts you could ever imagine. You know, nothing else matters. It's just listen to your car, stare out the windscreen blindly. At the end of a run, feel your eyes watering because you haven't blinked for the past 60 seconds. I mean, nothing will ever compare to those 60 seconds on track. I mean, there's a 95% input into drifting, but if you're on the roads, you have 5% that's saying no. And if you can't give it 100%, you shouldn't give it any percent, because all you're going to do is have a problem. Whenever you're standing there and you get that flag dropped, I mean, you know it's safe. The marshals are there, everybody's watching, everybody's got your back, everybody's in place to deal with anything that could ever go wrong, and you can just crack on and go for it and give it all of your energy, all of your train of thought, and just focus on the moment. It's difficult to do these things on a budget. I am a budget driver. You know what I mean? There isn't massive amounts of cash flow to go into it, but I mean, this is a progression of love. It's nothing more than that.
So I started drifting probably about 10 years ago, and I just bought I bought my S14.
I actually began back in the 90s when I was like 15, 16. Sierras, Opel Mantas, Opel Asconas and that, the runabouts, just power sliding as we called it back then.
I started karting, it was my first motorsport, and just hated how restricted it was. And I loved the flair that drifting could do, how unrestricted, how much emphasis there was on car control and style. And just fell into it, started making my own videos. Driftland picked up me doing some of my own videos, and we came up with an idea for a show called Drift My Ride.
Took a bit of time out, was doing like drag racing, knock hill, stuff like that, and then it was about 7 years ago, a couple of my pals all started coming to Driftland when it opened. I decided to go and buy a IS 200. Loved it, but so underpowered, it was unbelievable. Got invited up to Driftland one day, took my first my only 36 that I had, went up there, first day up, loved it, absolutely fell in love with the track and stuff. Jeek at the time, it was owning it, he got me in doing taxis, so straight away I was out doing taxi shifts the next week, and then ended up as taxi champ and stuff like that for years running. Nobody could beat me. I was a man possessed when it came to making A5ers.
Have bought many cars, drifted I think 80 cars all in now. And I'm now worked out the perfect car is an S14 with a V8 and a turbo, and I'm hoping that this round means that I'm going to see all of that experience come together, maybe make a good result.
So what's wrong with V8s is more of a question of what's right with V8s. They sound awful, they sound awful, and they sound awful. I mean, why would you ever take that to a crowd? It just gives me the bug thinking about it.
My wife will kill me, but here's my list. Cars, drifting, my business, and just normal day-to-day stuff. Drifting's right up there. My business is basically just to fund my drift. It's no, I don't go holidays, I've not got a bought house. Every penny that I made is in that behind me. Aye, so you could kind of say drifting is my life now, aye.
I actually used to do supercar experiences, and they bought an old BMW, and I basically done like 3 or 4 laps and I was hooked. I sold all the cars that I had and bought a drift car, and it's been like 9 years now. It was an E36. Never changed, stayed with them, love them.
What got me into drifting was I came up with one of my friends, and he was into it, and he took me out a passenger run, and that was it. I was hooked. I went and bought a car, and that was it. I've been hooked ever since.
Almost by chance, I was always into a lot of different types of motorsport, but my girlfriend Michelle Marshall, she was doing photography at Driftland, and we had an opportunity to go to the track, and I knew one of the guys, Ross Stark. I'd known him for years through different types of motorsport, and asked if I could get a shot out in the car with you. Done one lap and I was hooked straight out and bought my first drift car, which was the E36, which we took from a very basic spec car all the way to full BDC Pro 2 car. Actually took that car to South Africa competing in Gymkhana Grid, and things basically spiralled out of control for them.
It all started about 7 years ago. My partner bought me a drift taxi experience. She bought me a driving experience actually at Driftland, and I was just hooked from there on. I was straight on eBay on the way home, looking for a car, and that was it. It was just from there on, just totally hooked.
My first car was an E36 compact. It was a 2.5 M50, just a basic build, that no cage. It just had cheap eBay coilovers on it and modified hubs, and I just sent it and seen how it went and tried to give drifting a bash, and it just worked out.
Drifting to my life, apart from being a huge sap of money, is the best thing ever. It's like health and safety haven't found out about us yet. Any other motorsport, they seem to be like, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, whereas drifting, they just lights go out and you just go wild. It's throwing cars against wall, it's danger, it's speed, most of all it's fun.
Most obvious thing, it's so easy just to go straight out in the street and try it, but there's definitely keep it to the track. I mean, obviously you would want to go and do a driving experience first at Driftland. That's how I got into it, and the guys are really good there. You know, they'll help you out getting into that, but I don't know what to avoid. I mean, when I first started, it was always E36s because they were easy to get parts and cheap enough, but the price of everything is just going up just now, so I don't know if E46 is starting to take over from where E36 used to be, but yeah, don't go mad spending loads of money. Just a basic setup, you can have so much fun in it. So
I used to drive the Tarmac Sports R33 Skyline. I am currently in the process of building the new E92. Probably not to see me driving this year because I haven't been driving this year. I've been in the process of building that E92 and enjoying watching, spectating, even judging drift events. I've spent a bit of time over in Lithuania driving in the Betsy of Matsuri. It's awesome. If anybody ever gets a chance, head out there. Go and drive abroad, go and make the most out of it while we still can before the electric era ruins everything for everyone.
Thanks to Neil and Mac, I've been pushed into doing BDC again this year. So I've basically got 3 weeks to get my car ready, get tyres, get everything prepped, and yeah, it'll be good fun. It'll be good, I can't wait.
New car for this season's been trouble and strife, to say the least. We did literally a bare shell rebuild with a few of the boys in helping us, and wire wheeled the car back to absolute bare metal, so found numerous cracks in the shell. I'm pretty glad we did what we did, because we wouldn't have found them and it probably posed us problems through the year. But fresh new builds, much more power to come in a wee bit of time, a lot of development. But total change in livery, change in adding a bit more weight to the car. We're way too light and made the mistake of getting trapped by thinking lighter's faster. Not all the time, we can improve. We were off the pace, so we've added a bit of weight to the car. Made the car a little bit multi-purpose as well. Because of the new things going on at Driftland, we wanted to be able to do grip days as well. Just a wee bit of everything. Moving weight about, adding weight, and we're going supercharged and turbo this year, which should be extremely interesting. A non-lag big turbo.
So we used to drift, it used to be diffing. King of the Cone type work, pissing about in Sierras and twin cams, and I mean even old BMWs, Granadas, Volvos, you name it, everything rear wheel drive at home. I moved over here in 2004, sort of stepped out of it for a few years while I was studying. They opened Driftland, and I thought to myself, do you know what, I really want to go. At the time I had my Causey and a 200SX, and S14 200SX. I came to Driftland one day and I thought, you know what, at the time you could do tuition days. So I paid, came in to do a tuition day, got the seat at the track. Is so much bigger whenever you're actually sat on the tarmac as opposed to sat in the viewing area. And I did one tuition day, and I was hooked after that. Ended up buying an Oz Skyline, sold the 200SX, sold the Causey. Hindsight, no, I wish I'd have kept the Causey, I'd be a bit richer. Sold the Causey, put everything at the Skyline, built up a competitive Pro-Am car, built it up, and then got to the point last year, an engine failure, and decided that, do you know what, it's time to build a proper pro level car and take it to the next level as such.
Last season with the car we were having the problems. I just spent over the winter to fix all the problems. Went out, done the practice day, first run backwards into the tyres, smashed all the kit. So after that I was kind of angry, and I don't know, things all just clicked. The motor worked, I worked, and I ended up winning it, which I still can't believe.
So I started off in a E36 saloon, and not E36 coupe, sorry, and it was a good starter car. You know, it was good fun. And then I got offered to do taxis, and the car just wasn't quite up to it, so I had to buy a better looking car. So Neil was selling a E36 Touring, and ever since I had that Touring, I've just loved the Touring. So I managed to finish 3rd place overall in the SDC in 2018. I needed just a little bit more power, so the E30 V8 came up for sale. We thought that the engine was good, but we knew that the chassis was needing quite a bit of welding. Turns out the day after I bought it, I took it drifting and the engine blew up after about 9 laps. So that was a good excuse just to strip it down. So we completely stripped it, did all the welding, put a replacement engine in, and then we've just gradually done bits and bobs and got it up to where it is now. So,
been competing in BDC now since 2018. It's been hard knowing that car spec, budget has always been something that's held us back. It's hard turning up to events like when we had E36 and knowing that you can qualify well, but a lot of the time being outcarred. So an opportunity came up last year for us to purchase the S13, and it was the best thing that ever happened to us. So being able to prove that we were worthy of being not only being able to prove that we were able to do well in the Pro 2 class and actually then belong in the Pro class was very special. It was a long time coming, but it was an absolutely awesome feeling.
Last year I won SDC by 1 point against Hollywood. 1 point won the championship, so that was probably my biggest highlight for my driving career so far.
My absolute highlights, winning the 2019 Pro-Am in the wet at Driftland. I don't think anything could ever compete to it. I wasn't expecting it, and everything just fell into place that day, and I think that was the point where my driving level started to, once you get a win behind your belt, your confidence levels go through the roof. And once you get a bit of confidence, a bit of momentum, the car starts working right, then you can start being competitive. Start putting the fear in other people whenever you're appearing on the line with them. It helps, gives you a bit of a mental edge whenever you feel like you could win, you feel confident. And on the other hand, they have a losing edge because, they're coming up against somebody that has stood in the top step of the podium. They've been on, whenever you're against somebody that you know has been on the podium many times. And again, the highlight of that was one of the first times I ever got to drive with the pro drivers. You can go on a practice day and drive with the pro drivers, but whenever you actually are in the pro grid and you're going to pro practice, knowing that you're going to be practicing with the best drivers in the country, nothing can beat that. That's a feeling that you'll never lose.
The best was actually, it was like my first year. They done the go-kart track, it was called. It was doing a wee tight bit in the inside. It was actually the last time I ever ran that layout because there was like 20 cars of us in a wee narrow track. You look to the side, there's motors coming down the grass at you. Honestly, it was one of the best days of my life. It was total carnage, but loved it. And it was actually the last time I ever used that layout.
To be honest, the most fun that I have is when Neil puts on events like the bash events and stuff like that, that I've learned so much those days just by not worrying about anyone else's car, not worrying about your own car, and you just push as hard as you can. And I've learned so much about twinning there, and I think that's why I've progressed more to where I am now, is because of those events.
It's frustrating not being able to drive this year, but onwards and upwards, we get bigger and better things.
Getting into drifting, don't get caught up on spec. I see so many people that get into the sport and spend so much time messaging me saying, Stephen, I'm going to M3 engine the car and stuff like that. It's just like, it's not worth your time. If you get a basic spec drift car, I always preach, go out. It used to be E36s, but now it's E46s is the cheap way to get into drifting. Go out, buy an E36, E46, put a hydro in it and weld the diff and go and have fun. You will be able to start competing in that car and only upgrade things when you need it, and you can justify why you're learning from it and what will make you a better drifter. But basically just don't go in with a high spec car, because you'll learn better in a low spec car. So really my best advice is keep things simple, especially at the start.
What people should avoid is a really difficult subject, because a lot of the times you see people are led down the wrong path, where they have teams of guys behind them. You mean, they come to events, they have big following, big support, but unfortunately the support leads them down the wrong paths, and people tell them that they're doing better at what they're doing instead of telling them what they shouldn't be doing or how to avoid doing things that they shouldn't be doing. It's something that you can only ever pick up through experience. Even for the likes of being able to judge, like the other week I judged at Drift League, watching some of the up and coming guys, and watching whenever they come to you for advice, you can give them advice online and what they should do with their cars and how they should do it, but unless you're in that position, you don't really understand the judging criteria, what they should and shouldn't be looking out for. You mean, like spotters, my biggest pain is spotters at the minute, because they have guys that are telling them, look, you're just doing great, you're fast, you're hitting all the boxes, and in reality, people are not saying, look, you've missed clip 1 and you're never going to hit clip 2, 3, 4 and 5 because you missed clip 1, and people aren't getting the right information. That's probably the hardest thing. I think people need better guidance on what they're doing wrong as opposed to how many things that they do right, because you never learn anything about yourself unless it's through defeat. You learn more through your errors than you'll ever make through doing well.
Driftland Festival for me is going to be seeing all the old guard come back, and like basically all the boys coming back to town, been out actually competing with them, having a laugh, and the fact it's a 5-day festival, it's going to be much more time for us to actually do the social side of things. The media night I'm looking forward to in particular, because everyone can bring their sponsors along. It's free for all the public to come in. They don't need to worry about paying to come and see what drifting's about. It's easy to tell someone, but without people actually coming to see it, it totally changes their concept of what it is. And on a personal note for me, it's all the drivers coming to see the track extension and what we're doing. It's getting reaction and feedback. That's the big thing for me.
So I think people should come to Driftland because the place has been here for ages. There's loads of Scottish drivers coming. We all have driven that track a lot. So you're going to see some really close battles. Driftland as well, that track, the layout that we do, it's a fast track, and it's going to be an exciting track. There's going to be some mishaps. We're going to smash some fiberglass, and we're going to love doing it.
The first thing, that's one thing I've always noticed about BDC. The atmosphere is amazing. Everybody's your pal. You can walk about. The fact that it's got about 5 days, that's craziness. I'm going to have to start saving up for tyres for 5 days of drifting anyway and stuff like that, but honestly, get up there, see what it's like. I'll be up on the media night, so if you're up, you want to come out, I'll take you out in our car, we'll do a few laps in, we'll do it in a set of tyres and see how it goes. But definitely, if you're not doing nothing for the 5th to the 10th of July, Driftland's where you need to be.
More than anything, it's going to be a party. It's probably going to be the best event to absorb what drifting is, not just on the track, but off the track, meeting everybody and just having a good time.
A year from now, I reckon we'll be on to what we were saying, phase 6. So the new track extension will be done, the bank corner will be done, the 1,000 car parking spectators will be done. The track will be tested, and fingers crossed we've done enough to bring DMEC here next year. That's always been the dream. It all started with bringing BDC. We've got that, we're established, it's fantastic, we love it. Now it's time to raise the bar. The money that's getting put into this site, and I think it's one of the few in Europe and the world who are doing massive reinvestment. I think this will put it in the world stage once we're finished with this.